Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a 3CE slash Yesstyle haul. Now, I don't know what's gotten into me lately. Maybe I've been watching too much Game of Thrones and I really want to embrace my inner Dothraki blood rider. Where I've just been jamming out to too much like Monsta X and BTS at the gym. So I just play it cool. And I just really want to live my best K-pop life. Regardless, I wanted to go ahead and play around with some different eyeshadows. So I decided to do a little bit of research, and 3CE was one of the big names that came up in K-beauty, so I figured I would go ahead and give it a shot. So I ordered like one palette, tried it out, and I was like, oh shit, now I just gotta buy everything. And of course, because of the fact that Yesstyle is this big kind of black hole of K-beauty, you just get sucked in. Now, before we jump into anything, I do want to give you guys a little bit of a disclaimer so you will feel sorry for me and you will not judge me. I'm actually trying out a new retinol by the Inky List, and legitimately, I'm going through the retinol uglies. So my skin texture has changed completely. Like, everything is just popping off in a terrible, terrible way, but that's kind of like how retinol works. It's like this big purge, and then after you get through all of the nastiness, your skin is glorious and beautiful. I guess the retinol that I had previously was not strong enough. However, this one is definitely kicking things into high gear in a very ugly way, but you know what? Sometimes you gotta get messy to get the job done, right? Alrighty, so I wanted to go ahead and start things off with the things that weren't actually 3CE, just to kind of get them out of the way. And to be honest with you, these are the newest things to my collection, so I have not gotten to play around with them as much. However, once I saw them up on Yesstyle, I was like, oh my god, those are so fucking cute. I was only supposed to buy one. I bought three. Listen, I make poor choices.
Shame. Shame.
But there was a sale going on, so I had to do it. So I went ahead and picked up all three of the I'm Mimi hidden card palettes. I just could not say no. This is just too fucking adorable. This packaging is ridiculous. It's like one of those things where you kind of like change the angle of it and the picture on the front changes. Brings me back to my childhood, but what's even cooler is it is a 9-pan palette. The pans are really, really small, and it comes with a blush, and it's also got a pretty big mirror. I haven't actually even taken off the film off of the mirror, but really, really fun. This one is the Lucky card, and it's basically just a bunch of nudes. Is there even like a shimmer in this one at all? No, there's not a single shimmer in this one, which I appreciate. I'm finding that fully matte palettes really are just kind of up my alley. Now, this one is the only one that I've actually played around with, which is the red palette. So as you can see right here, it's got a really, really red blush, which the cool thing about this is initially I was like, I'm never gonna use that blush. That's way too freaking red for me. But the pigmentation on these blushes are actually really, really surprising. So you could actually use it as a wash of color over the eyes. But this one does have more shimmers. It's got some more deeper colors in there. And it's got some gold glitters. It's got like a red with gold glitters in it that looks really fucking dope. And it's got kind of like a champagne-y brown. I really, really like that one. And this one, honestly, I just picked up because there's like one more in the set. How could I not say no? And I think this is the love card. As you can see right here, this one is more like pinks and corals. It's not necessarily something that I would use a lot of, but when I was looking at their marketing images, I was kind of like, you know what? I probably will find some use out of there, and I'm kind of glad because all of the shimmers from the I'm Mimi palettes are actually very, very good, and this one has a decent number of them. The blush is also pretty nice as well, so can't wait to play more with those, and I'll give you guys a bit more of a heads up as how they work. One of the things that I did want to kind of make mention is as compared to the 3CE palettes, which are kind of like lauded as the most pigmented of K-beauty eyeshadows, that this definitely lives up to the stereotype that Korean beauty eyeshadows tend to be a little bit more sheer. Now, the thing that I like about that is the fact that you really can't fuck up too bad. Everything blends really, really nicely. Everything is very natural. So you never kind of like put eyeshadow on your eye and you're like, oh no, how am I gonna blend this out? It's all like a nice wash of color that's very easy to manage and decently easy to build too. It takes a second, but you get a much nicer blend than something that you kind of pack on and you're like, I don't know what to do with this. Speaking of eyeshadows, let's go ahead and take a look at my very first K-beauty palette ever, the one that popped my cherry and has turned me into a K-pop hooker whore ever since. It's of course the multi-eye color palette by 3CE and #Overtake. Now, this one was in so many people's like collections and everybody really loved this one, so I wanted to see if it lived up to the hype, and to be completely honest with you, it's pretty fucking dope. So the color story for hashtag Overtake is very much like this warm rose accented with a little bit of gold, so you know that it was kind of right up my alley, right? However, one of the things that I will mention about this palette that I find to be very interesting is they do have a couple mattes in this. They have some really nice shimmers. They have one crazy, ridiculous glitter. It's absolutely amazing. And then they have a couple shades that in the pan look like they're glitters. It's the center one right here and this one down in the corner, but they're liars. They are cold-hearted liars, because when you actually go ahead and swatch them, you'll notice that they're mattes with glitters in them. Now, being someone who doesn't really have that much experience with eyeshadows like firsthand, I've heard of a lot of these kind of like matte shadows with glitters in them, and everybody says, oh, the glitter just ends up falling out, so it's just gonna end up being a matte anyway. No, not with this one. The glitters are committed to staying strong. See, here's the thing. I don't necessarily like too much glitter, so I was like, oh, well, I guess they're matte. Maybe, you know, I can just kind of like brush off the extra glitter. No, the glitters are there. It's definitely a matte with the glitter, and the glitter is committed to staying for the long run. So you gotta be okay with that when it comes down to it. However, this palette overall is really fun, and it's great and really wearable. I use the phrase really a lot. I don't like it. I always want to cut it and edit it, but you know what? We're sticking with it. Next up, we have the palette that I'm actually using on my eyes today, which is hashtag Smoother, and this one is an all matte palette. Now, one of the things that I have to say about this one is literally the color story is just everything that you need. It's got some cool tones, it's got some warm tones, and it's pretty neutral. It's got some lighter shades in there as well that you can kind of use to blend out other colors. It's a great kind of like supplementary palette if you're looking to, you know, kind of fill in the gaps for your mattes. But honestly, all in all, if I just want like a good easy day look, you can just go ahead and slap this on, not having to worry about any glitter, except if you don't clean your brushes well, like I don't, and you still get remnants of it from the night before. So legitimately, this one is so usable and definitely my favorite of the bunch. Well, can I say it's my favorite? I think it's my favorite because I like using it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like one of those ones where you just open it up and you're like, oh, this is gonna be easy. And the last palette in the Mood series collection is hashtag Plot Twist. Now, if I'm gonna be completely honest with you, this is by far the most challenging palette of the bunch for me to use, mainly because of the fact that it's a lot of glitter. It's just a lot of glitter. There's only 2 mattes in here. Now, the mattes are fantastic. They're great like mid-tones and are nice like washes over the lid, but beyond that you don't really have much to work with, because any of the lighter shades are shimmery, any of the deeper shades are glittery. So it's kind of like using this on its own is going to kind of introduce textures that you might not necessarily want. Now, speaking of something that you don't necessarily want, the only shadow that I've had any issues with in the Mood Recipe collection is this actual dark shimmer. Well, it's not a dark shimmer, it's a matte with a glitter in it. And my issue with this one is legitimately you apply it to the lid and then you try to blend it out, and literally it just does not want to blend out. Every other color in this palette and all of the other ones, you apply it and you blend it out, it's absolutely beautiful. This one just kind of like stays in place and it's like, nope.
Not today.
Not going anywhere. Now, I have played around with application technique on this one, so as long as you're precise, you place it where you want it to start out and you kind of like buff out the edges, then you're gonna be fine. But this is the one that I've had the most challenge with. The interesting thing about it though is there's one right next to it is just a tinge lighter and slightly warmer, and I have absolutely no issue with it whatsoever. And it's, again, one of those mattes with glitters in it, and I'm like, you two are like basically the same, but you act very differently. You know, that kind of threw me for a loop, but regardless, the rest of this is really pretty. Little bit of a challenge to use as just a single cohesive palette, but if you want to add it up with Smoother or Overtake, you should be just fine and dandy. Still great quality. Continuing with powder products, I have the Mood Recipe Face Blush in hashtag Rosy Beige. Now, I'm not a blush person at all, but I really wanted to go ahead and give it a shot. When I was looking at other people's videos, the color was just absolutely perfect, and if I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm wearing it today and I kind of love it. The only thing that I have an issue with is because of the fact that I do naturally have rosacea, and a lot of the foundations or skin tints that I regularly use don't necessarily hide all of it. This kind of ends up competing with the redness that I naturally have in my skin. It's this really, really pretty kind of like peachy, beigey, rosy tone. It's just absolutely gorgeous and is very similar to the flush that I have in my own cheeks. However, it kind of evens everything out a little bit. So what I end up getting is a better version of my rosacea, which I actually really, really like. And because of the fact that I'm wearing something that's a little bit more full coverage today, you know, to try to hide all of the retinol uglies that I've got going on, I actually appreciate the color even more. I like it a little bit on the nose bridge and then a little bit on the sides. It's just a gorgeous color that adds a little bit of natural warmth. Alright, so let's go ahead and close things out with lip products, because if I'm going to be completely honest with you, all of these really, really just surprised the shit out of me. So kicking things off, we have the matte lips. I have 114, which is Rose, and 115, which is Muss. Now, it's really, really interesting because 114 is Rose, but the second color is actually more like Rose. This one, I like to equate as a Cheeto dust kind of color. It's kind of like your natural nude lip, but you've wiped away some of the Cheeto dust that you've had a little bit earlier, and it's kind of smeared on your lips. So it's this pretty orangey nude, and I'm kind of super duper digging it. I'll actually go ahead and toss up a picture from my Instagram, and this is really just kind of what got the whole ship sailing on these matte lips, because honestly, it's not something that I was really into a matte lip, no, but I went ahead and laid down a layer of lip balm, and then I go ahead and put it on top, and what happens is that balm is kind of like, you know, it's got a little bit of a glow to it, and then the matte kind of like blends that down a little bit, so it kind of turns into a satin matte that's really, really comfy. So when you put those two together, it's like a match made in freaking heaven. Now, we had the Cheeto dust color, so I decided that I would go ahead and pick up number 115 in Muss, and this one would actually be my kind of My Lips but better color. So when I go ahead and use that same kind of lip balm trick, what ends up happening is this is just literally my lip color, but not dead. And I think if you guys have heard me talk about lip shades before, it's all about looking like you're not dead, because my lips can go a little bit gray in the morning, so, you know, adding this on top with a little bit of lip balm just kind of evens everything out, gives it just a little bit of a pop. This is actually what I'm wearing on the center of my lips today. I've tried to do the whole K-pop, K-beauty lip gradient thing, and this is like as close to it as I'm gonna get. Regardless, I'm really, really fond of both of the matte lips, as long as you're kind of combining it with the lip balm. On its own, they are definitely matte, but I think that the matte look is just not a look that I like, at least the super matte looks. And on the other end of the spectrum, I actually went ahead and picked up the 3CE Plumping Lips in hashtag Rosy and hashtag Coral. Now, for those of you guys who are wondering, this is one of those lip glosses that make your lips tingle. Now, interestingly enough, and this is the strange part for me, is I don't actually feel like these ones tingle as much as some of the other ones out there. I actually have a lip balm from Jack Black that makes my lips tingle. I also have the So Juicy lip glosses from ColourPop that really make your lips tingle. These don't actually make your lips tingle as much. However, and this is the weird fucking thing, what I did notice is that my lips would flush a little bit more naturally. So when you take a look at this coral color, it's very, very orangey in the tube, but when you actually apply it to your lips, of course, it is sheer. But I noticed when I first put it on, it's like a little bit more orangey, but as time progresses, my lips seem to kind of like really react and really flush. It's never painful. I actually feel like I said, this does not tingle as much as some of my other ones do, but I'll find that my own natural natural color will come up more than with any of the other glosses out there. So I don't know what kind of weird ass magic that is. The one thing that I will say is it's one of these strange dispensers where it's like a clicker. So you actually click it and it just like inches up very, very slowly. You don't get very much product, which is great because you can't dial it back down. So just a little bit at a time. What I'll actually do is I'll actually dip my finger in there and I'll kind of like smear it across my lips. But it's a very, very corally, sheer color that ends up kind of making your lips look like natural with a little hint of brightness to it because of the fact that you are getting your own natural flush. Now the color, the MVP for me, and I'll actually go ahead and put this on, is #Rosy. So this is like brown and kind of like pinky at the same time. So when that kind of merges with your own lip color, oh my god, it's really, really fucking gorgeous. And these things are super glossy. So as you can see right now, like I'm like clicking it a bunch of times and like nothing is coming up. Just the tiniest, teensiest little bit has been pushed upwards. You can actually barely see it over the cap. It's crazy. But let's go ahead and do a little bit of an application. Now do keep in mind that I did use a little bit of foundation earlier on to kind of like matte out the edges of my lips, and then I put a matte lipstick on top of that, so this isn't as shiny as it is when used on its own. Regardless, I think it's absolutely beautiful, and I feel like it's just gonna keep getting redder and redder because my lips are just gonna end up flushing underneath it. Now, one of the things that I do want to note about this is it has a very interesting flavor. I want to say it's like a weird coconut mint. Not in a bad way, but I don't necessarily like coconut flavored things, but I do like mint flavored things. So it's very confusing for me in general. So all in all, I'm super happy with all of the 3CE products that I picked up. The packaging on them is absolutely amazing. It's like this matte rubberized plastic, and it just makes everything feel a little bit more like lush. Ooh, it's just so fancy. Now, I do have some just straight up plastic palettes from other brands, and they're fine, but this just kind of like elevates it to a whole nother level, so I absolutely loved that. Now, the I'm Mimi hidden card palettes, those ones I'm gonna have to play around with a little bit more, because like I said, I just got them in the mail yesterday, so I'll report back to you with how I feel about them, but they are so cute, really portable, and I love like the effect on the front of them. Regardless, that about does it for me for now. Let me know how you guys feel. Do you guys like some K-beauty items as well? Do you guys play around with your looks? Have you heard of any of these brands, or are there any brands that you think that I should check out? Regardless, that about does it for me for now. So as always, love somebody, hurt nobody, and touch your body. Also, let me know if there's anything that you would like to see from me. Did I already say that? I don't know. Regardless, I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!